Kirti Singh with us, who is heading glaucoma department at GNEC. And as I said previously, she is a prolific speaker and very good teacher, and we are still learning from her. Thank you, Dr. Kirti, for your time and for coming here despite your busy schedule. She will be talking on ocular blood flow and systemic conditions. Dr.
Thank you, Dr. Shalini, for having me as part of this wonderful session. And it's very close to my heart because I've been doing ocular blood flow studies for the last decade. Although nothing has really come out significantly, but it is definitely the way to go forward. Thank you very much. So without, I'll just start my topic on systemic diseases, which is the what we are actually, we have to remember as ophthalmologists, we are just not looking at the eye. We need to become physicians first and look at the body as a whole. I start my talk with salutations to Dr. Haire, who way back in 1970 talked about the vascular aspects. For 45 years down the line, he was validated when the ocular blood flow in glaucoma was identified as an independent risk factor for glaucoma progression. Glaucoma is known to have disturbed autoregulation and dysregulation, and glaucoma progression has been linked to reduced ocular perfusion, ocular blood flow, which is OBF. I'll be speaking of OBF now. And the way to go, the way to measure it is in this short posterior ciliary artery, cingulate artery, and retrobulbar. That is why it's so difficult, because you have to measure it in multiple places. But increased resistive indices have been identified as the most sensitive, and they're linked with faster glaucoma progression. And if it is more than 0.78 in ophthalmic artery, one key study talked about that it is 6 times the risk of visual field progression. So now what are the systemic conditions affecting OBF, which as we just saw is linked to the glaucoma progression and to glaucoma genesis? The first one is of course hypertension, but please remember it is also hypotension. It's not only hypertension, even hypotension is important. Then we have diabetes, Raynaud's phenomena, migraine, the new buzzword obstructive sleep apnea, hypercoagulable states, and in that COVID also would come in the picture. We have to still see what the effects of COVID has been, and thyroid problems and systemic medications. So coming to the one which is most studied, hypertension was the key was given by the EMGTS and the CNGTS study, which said that almost 45% and 12% progress despite optimal intraocular pressure control in EMGT and CNTGS respectively over 6 and 5 years. Even advanced glaucoma, 1/4 progressed despite a very stringent 35% reduction in IOP. So they talked about the ocular blood pressure. These population-based studies gave the evidence. There are multiple studies. Most of them have said that around 4.5 to 3 times risk if your diastolic perfusion pressure falls below 50%. This also has been linked with the antihypertensive treatment. If you lower the systolic and diastolic pressure more, the risk of developing and progressing glaucoma is more. Latino study classified very clearly that even systolic and diastolic pressure both were linked with a reduction in the ocular blood flow as well as increase with the intraocular pressure. And low perfusion pressure was reiterated. However, there were naysayers, and Beijing Eye Study did not find any association of open-angle glaucoma with systolic or diastolic blood pressure or mean BP or ocular perfusion pressure. The Thessaloniki study specifically studied the treatment of antihypertensive treatment on POAG, and they found, although that it was not significant the effect, but most studies have said that diastolic OPP is very significantly related to the patients on using antihypertensive treatment. So how does this work? The nocturnal dip at night happens is usually patients are physiological dippers, which are 2/3 of the healthy individuals, where the systolic BP drops by 12% and diastolic by 17%. The non-dippers, which are 10%, have this dip absent or blunted, and these non-dippers are at the risk of CVS events. Over-dippers have a more than 20% dip, and they're at risk for glaucoma. So what we need clinically is to identify these patients. We need 24-hour ambulatory BP with IOP in diurnal variations. Does treatment change the scenario? Although the study before said no, Thessaloniki study, however, most studies say that hypertension, which is poorly controlled, has a higher risk of glaucoma developing vis-a-vis normotensive, And this again very clearly said poorly controlled hypertension vis-a-vis untreated hypertension and normotensive. The Blue Mountains Eye study identified these aspects. There are shades of gray in this because age. Older people were supposed to work with hypertension had an adverse effect on OAG, whereas younger patient had protective effect. Here the factor of OPP came up because OPP ultimately means blood pressure minus IOP. This happens because with aging, the arteries become stiffer, whereas younger patients have more elastic arteries. So hypertension may be protective. However, most studies say that hypertension is not protective. We have to remember, do we look at the eye alone? Because when we go after IOP, making it lower and lower, and BP lower and lower, our blood pressure per se will save the body, but the blood pressure lowering too much and the IOP lowering too much may not save the eye. Second is diabetes. The incidence in diabetes is very high, 36% because of microvascular damage, vascular autoregulation, and retinal ganglion cell injury by the hyperglycemia. Also, at the trabecular meshwork of the fibrinogen synthesis is much more, and the glaucoma per se becomes more. These were studies where wall to lumen ratio was correlated to duration of diabetes stage and the mean blur rate in open angle glaucoma. So the quantitative studies of end diastolic velocity and peak systemic velocity do show that diabetics have a lower velocities and higher resistive index in the open angle glaucoma. A very recent study, however, said that the Vijaya study in 2014, they said that there is no risk of diabetes with glaucoma. They could not find a risk. Having said that, the population markers were different and the population cohort was different. So the jury is still out on diabetes, but most studies do say it has a higher risk. Next one is vascular dysregulation, where the OPF is not regulated as per tissue needs. This is primary and secondary. Secondary is as per intemperate arthritis, multiple sclerosis, rheumatoid arthritis. The key phenomena here is that endothelial level and vasospasm occurs, and both the glaucoma incidence, glaucoma prevalence, and progression increase. This new entity which came up around 6 to 7 years was the primary vascular dysregulation of Flammer syndrome. It is inappropriate vasodilatation. It's an inherited phenomena. Usually in slender women, starts at puberty, improves at menopause, so it has some hormonal influence. Cold hands, cold feet, long sleep time, shifted circadian rhythm, nocturnal dips are much more, reduced thirst. So these studies were done on these patients and they identified actual symptoms and signs which talked about Flammer syndrome. So we need to be more aware of this syndrome and to be aware that optic disc hemorrhages and optic nerve compartment syndrome is more common in these patients. Since PVD is usually harmless, you treat only when it's disease. There are 3 treatment pillars. Lifestyle management, you avoid the triggers of vasospasm. Nutrition, where this feeling that you should be excessively lean, especially in girls, you should avoid excessive leanness. And wherever you have a BP very low at night, you take salt and fluid intake to avoid the excessive nocturnal dip. And medication, physiological calcium channel blockers like magnesium have been used. There are few case reports where peripheral vascular disease also have been associated with normotension glaucoma, but they are very few and between. The buzzword nowadays is the OSAS, or the obstructive sleep apnea syndrome. It compromises the optic nerve perfusion, and this is more with the sleep studies coming up, and the snoring and the obesity and the way you sleep and the circadian rhythm, they're all linked by the polysomnography studies. Hypovolemic condition, as I just said, severe blood loss, nocturnal hypotension, and episodes of shock are linked with the non-progressive type of glaucoma, normotensive glaucoma. So in conclusion, there are these systemic diseases have been identified with glaucoma. The way to go ahead is some studies say don't use carbonic anhydrase inhibitors because they will increase the blood flow and increase OPP and cause vasoprotection is required, which CI will not do. However, the other studies say that topical CI inhibitors would increase the ocular blood flow. Having said that, your choice of anti-glaucoma medication will depend on the diurnal fluctuation of IOP, including the diurnal fluctuation of BP. So have something called as phasing done, where you take the BP and the IOP to see what is the ocular perfusion pressure. You can use any of the drugs as long as the ocular perfusion pressure is 55. The diastolic perfusion pressure is more than 55. Although again, these figures are always dynamic, they keep changing. The new ROR kinase inhibitors and lateral with a long-term diurnal control will increase the ocular perfusion pressure. This was a study which we published in which we could find that trabeculectomy reversed the blood flow in asymmetrical glaucoma. So obviously IOP has a big role to play. Last would be that tobacco, which is so common in India, and there are many studies that say smoking itself will reduce the ocular perfusion pressure. So I conclude that today we don't have any special drug which will increase the ocular ocular perfusion pressure, except for lifestyle modifications like walking, exercise, controlling BP, stop smoking, and sleep hygiene. Thank you for a very patient listening.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your wonderful insight in all the types of systemic diseases which are actually affecting the ocular blood flow. And I'm sure viewers must have been benefited by this amazing